Thank you so much for joining us today. And just before we get into it, if you have not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We are so thankful for everyone who already has and everyone that just listens to this podcast. You know, this is a labor of love. We do this for you and to get the guests you want to see on this show. So please consider subscribing and enjoy today's episode.
All right, well, welcome back to the Kingdom Creatives podcast. My name's Sam. This is Josh.
Welcome.
I say this every episode, but we do truly have
more and more special.
Very special guest. He's a bit underground. You may not have seen him. He goes by the name of Mr. Rush. Mm-hmm. John W.
Welcome.
Welcome to the pod, man.
Oh, welcome. Lock in.
Typical American in Australia.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, man? Make America great again, Trump, you know?
Bro, speaking of Make America Great Again, how do you think Trump's term is going right now?
Well, so here's here's what I think about
Take us on the journey.
a lot of political discourse is it's a bit over all of our heads. Like we all just have this whole armchair politician where what Trump really should have done with the 7th Carrier Group in Iran is, he should have moved should have moved the chariot. You're like, brother, this is a different. I think it's a bit like us standing in a brain surgeon room, standing over a brain surgeon soldier and shoulder and being like, hey, you missed a spot there on the the clavicle. And not to say that I just more mean that geopolitical realities are very complex. Mm-hmm. And Theo Vaughn had a good bit after the election. He was like, yeah, man, for a little bit there, I thought I knew something. He's like, boy, I had Bernie Sanders on, and I thought I knew something. And so, I think it's fine that I think people should criticize. I think any good leader should be able to bear extreme criticism. Mm-hmm. That's part of the job, So I don't know. Trump's a big boy; he can figure it out. It's also early in the terms, but
I remember you posted this thing. I had massive. I texted you about it the other day, but the whole monkey photo thing happens, right? And no, there was two sides talking about it.
Yeah.
But you had a really great sort of nuanced, you were I think you even said hey, I voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And I saw you wrestle with how bad the situation was mixed with I also voted for this guy.
Well, totally.
And you're wrestling with that publicly, but we just don't see that. So talk me through why.
I just think that everyone's like, how's AI gonna affect the human brain? And I'm just like, well, the algorithm is built on a lot of artificial intelligence, patterns and programs, and we've been being conditioned by it. And I think the problem is with the algorithm is that if we're not careful, it will condition us to think only in hyper extremes and just become hyper reactive, non-critical thinkers, non-linear thinkers. We'd think with how much we swipe we'd be linear thinkers, but that's brain rot. And so I think the reality of this situation, and I think this is what we all need to do as creators and just people in our own homes, we need to slow down and be do you really think this, do you think he did that? If he was, maybe he did. But what's most likely, looking at the evidence as someone who's in social media, is he had bad staff work and terrible. It was a poorly clipped video. And yet the fact that he didn't apologize was so not good, not cool, not admirable, not helpful, you know?
Yeah.
And even if even to me, I'm just I'm not even saying you should have fired the person, but you should come out and say and we talked to that person and that's unacceptable. And I'm the leader of the freaking free world and we'll do better. But no, I'm not racist. There's a way to not capitulate to the mob.
Yes.
And still be no, I'm going to hold my stance that I'm not a racist person. That's not my primary worldview. And yet this was really bad. And if someone was hurt by it, man, I'm sorry. And I'm going to try everything I can to make that not happen again. But instead he was just I have nothing to apologize for.
Yeah. Enough.
That's to me, those are the moments where I go, that's where I kind of go, that's kind of loser energy.
Yeah.
Anyone who can't, bravado is cool until it means you can't apologize. It's cool to be based until you can't listen to somebody else. Then it's just kind of lame. It's kind of cringe ass, as you guys would say.
Cringe ass.
Yeah.
Not cringe ass.
Yeah, not cringe. No.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. This cringe is a Christian podcast, dude.
Cringe as.
Cringe as. Okay.
As is said in Australia.
Yeah. The reason I speak to that is because my feeling amongst creators who happen to be Christian or pastors who happen to have big followings is that they don't talk to these things.
Yeah.
It's very PR polished. It's like very like say enough. But I just like, I think you were in your car from memory and you were just like, you're kind of like, but I don't know, but I'm like not happy with that, but I don't know. And like, I saw was like, I just had a lot of respect for you in that moment because I was like, you're wrestling very publicly, knowing that people are watching, obviously, because you posted it, but you didn't PR clip it or polish it. And I just wonder why. Like, why do you want to bring that level of authenticity, even if you're wrong or going to get burnt at the stake, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think critical thinking is worth being unpopular on both sides. You know, on the same day, this was a couple years ago, but on the same day, I got uninvited from a church speaking engagement from a guy that's on Trump's faith council. And I got called a white supremacist Nazi from an African-American, liberal content creator in the same day. And I'm like, I was being called woke here and like a fascist here. And I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, right.
And I think that just to me is like the algorithm epitomized. And I'm just like, critical thinking is worth fighting for. And, even recently in the States, there was a terrible, terrible shooting at a mosque. And, the security guard heroically like saved everyone's life. He died saving everyone's lives. He got all the women and children and staff into lockdown, gave up his life. And then 2 others were killed, and terrible, And there's this Christian content creator who like straight out the gate was like, and this is because of other Christian content creators who speak out against Islam. And I mean, like, it had just happened. And I'm like, this is starting to get dangerous here.
Yeah.
Because like all of a sudden we're just so quick to react and so quick to not invite nuance or even due process. I'm like, where's the due process in social media?
There's none.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, I think we've really got to fight for the human brain.
Yeah. What's your take then? Like, this could just be personal. You don't need to speak for all Christians. So oh, please do actually. No. Where do you think that nuance comes from? Because there's definitely like, you're very much public figure online and that where reaction and speed is almost the name of the game half the time. How do you apply the nuance into that? Like if you're trying to be quick with things, certainly, or you're trying to get an opinion out there. Like, do you have a process that you view everything with or you try to do with some topics?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, I try to not say things online I wouldn't say to someone's face.
That's good.
And I've gotten it wrong heaps. But the more I do this, the more
Tell us more.
Right. We can go.
Come on, wait, you just said
this
wrong.
Is not
you guys have probably seen it, and I just think that like if you were sitting like in that instance, if Christian content creator A, who's blaming Christian content creator B about a terrible shooting that even now, days later, has zero evidence that it had anything to do with anything other mental health disorders, and like these guys got caught up in like legit Nazi Hitler like dogma, like it's terrible, Unfortunately, it's a tale as old as time. Mental health plus like this known fascism, and Hitlerism, whatever. If they were sitting across from each other, you wouldn't have said that. If you were in the same room when that shooting happened,
it's so
you
true.
wouldn't have looked at them and said, "That's because you don't like Islam." You would have just wouldn't have done it. And I think where I've gotten it wrong is when I talked about people, talked about issues. It's less about, I don't regret ever what I've talked about, but I look back and I go, how I've talked about things needs to be better. I'm always trying to improve that.
Does your wife get upset at you? What's she like?
What? My wife?
Does she pull you in line or is she like?
I think my wife more so is, I've realized that when I get too caught up in that outrage thing, I become a person that's not good for anyone to be around. And I'm like stuck in this mode, and that's just not a great husband to be. I'm defending. And I've even realized that I believe greatly that online discourse can still happen. I just don't think it can happen in the comment section. I'm like ready to full sail say the comment section is toxic.
Yeah.
I do not think that the comment section is where, and I've tried, anyone who's followed me for the last couple of years has known that I've gone hours back and forth with people, but it's the wrong spirit and it's the wrong medium to have a productive, full circle, critical thinking, conversation. And now I'm going to try some different things.
What are you going to do?
I think live streaming is really important. I'm gonna
Like just gaming or any live streaming?
no, just live streaming in general. You know,
yeah.
and majority of live stream, most of the live streaming that's viewed is not gaming anymore. You know, it's political commentary. It's you know, like Hassan Piker, Asmongold.
Yeah.
You know,
What are these guys that are like
Trainwrecks.
walking around at? I mean, I sound old and ignorant, but they walk around at parties and like shove each other and they live stream it.
Yeah, so that would be
What's
like
that called?
that IRL streaming. So
Yeah,
like guys
right.
like Kai Cenat, IShowSpeed, the Phase guys.
Yeah.
You know, that's really more Marlon. You know, like that's really what is live stream culture. Live streaming is also a pretty keen way of media creation because it'll be really hard to replicate with AI. Like,
Sure. Because here's how you know it's legit.
Here's how you know it's legit because it's happening right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay.
So you think there's going to be an upward trend? Continue?
I think so. And then I think
interesting.
I think then you think about the opportunity to sell things in real time. So the difference between doing a cold activation in mid-roll ad in a YouTube video or like the classic. I use the Camel Brush toothpaste because I love camel enamel on my teeth. You know, it's like I think it's going to be like, hey, like I'm drinking this drink right now. I'm wearing these clothes right now. Live stream and the links like hyperlinked, like
sure.
right there.
Is that happening now?
Yeah, tons. Yeah, and then actually one of the biggest live streaming is here in is Kick in Sydney, Melbourne.
Really?
And what's funny is Kick is this live streaming platform that's like hand in hand with stake gambling. So they're making tons of money.
That's
also,
crazy.
side note, shout out to the crew all behind.
Gang.
The room is full.
Yeah, the room is full.
The room is full.
Yeah.
Just
anyway,
pretend
so if
we've
we ever
turned the
look
camera.
that way and talk, it's because there are people there.
Yeah. And so I even think that creating platforms where I'm working on, I can't say names yet because I'll tell you privately. I just don't want people to, I'll tell you guys.
I will sell, I'll sell the information.
I don't want to tell yous guys, yeah?
Not yet.
But working on something where it's like, we're going to start a platform where if two content creators, initially Christian, are beefing, I'm going to say, hey, come here. We'll moderate a discussion.
Love it.
You're all acting like girls.
Love
this
it.
whole like, so I don't mean to use that girls like in a pejorative connotation. I just mean this is so not gangster.
Yeah.
This whole like, I react to you and you react to me and I react to you and you react to me. This is so not gangster.
Yeah.
And like, and even like guys that we all know and love, I'll see them fighting online. I know them both, and I'll be like, "Hey, you guys want to get on a FaceTime?" No, and I'm like, "You guys are acting like 13-year-olds." And I'm like, if you have such a conviction about whatever you're talking about, why don't I think you should look someone in the eyes and say it to them, and let's work it out together.
100%.
I'm not even saying that for the sake of unity, because I don't necessarily expect everyone to leave there as friends. I'm just like, certainly as Christians and the human race, we can do better than like going comment for comment, react for react. It's just so boring.
That's actually
just
brilliant.
lame.
How are you going to do that? Can you talk to it?
I mean,
brilliant.
Honestly, like we could get most of it done with Zoom and just be people's courage. You know, I'm inspired by Jubilee, the Surrounded stuff. But I think that I've had friends that go on there, and I think it's very scripted. It's rage bait.
All they do is rage bait. And there's a better way to do that.
Yeah, it's too gamified.
Yeah,
there needs to be it needs to be gamified and moderated so that it's interesting to watch.
Yeah,
but it needs to be authentic.
Yeah.
And so I also think there's something to be said about, that just making that like a flag we're planting in humanity, saying like, when we say something, we'll say it with our chest. And we'll say it as if we're saying it to other humans.
100%.
And I think we need to fight for that.
100%. That just rang a thought you posted the other day about Mike Winger.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? What's up with, everyone says they hate this guy, but like he's talking sense. I kind of just want to have this out because like I don't really have it. Do you know who Mike Winger is?
No.
Okay. Well, you know how we're talking in staff meeting the other day about exposing pastors, like the people that, and you brought up a name.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know who the name was, but anyway, but Mike Winger does that too, and he's done a whole bunch of Bethel stuff recently.
Yeah.
Oh, does he have? Yeah, I think
and he
I've seen
just did a
that.
recent one with a local guy, and this is why I watched.
Like
the video.
imagine an IT guy. That's how he looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it.
He's but he does like 6 hours. Anyway, what I kind of want to lead into that. What that reminded me of is he did that live stream the other day about the prophetic guy, and he actually just live streamed the whole meeting that he came and stormed in on. I don't know if you saw that, but he basically, there was accusations this guy was a fake prophet. Anyway, he just went into a straight up meeting for like hours, and they live streamed the whole thing. And I thought, you know what? There's like witch hunt, and then there's like just confronting potential, with receipts, by the way,
Yeah.
potential like fraud in the kingdom. And like that happens all the time.
Totally.
So anyway, I just want to have it out. I don't really have an opinion right now. Maybe I do, but I just want to have it out. Like, what do you think? When is the, because I have friends, close friends, who have been the product of a witch hunt. Totally untrue BS.
Yeah.
They've been fired, excommunicated. Their character has been smeared.
Yeah.
Seemingly forever. People that everyone would know. But then there are people who, there's a passage in Titus or James somewhere that talks about holding people to account.
Yep.
Where we sit with that, and it just reminds me of your idea. Like, how do you do that in a healthy way? Calling out, but not making something like, you know what I mean? Like a witch hunt against people.
Yeah, I mean, I would just think at the end of the day, I try to see what conclusion people are moving towards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that
That's it.
someone might call out the right thing, but do it in the wrong way. But then also they might call it the right thing, but then their end game is different than mine. So I would say some, like Julie Roy's or like religion business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I think you hate the church.
Yeah.
Like I think you don't. It feels personal. It feels yucky. It feels vindictive. It feels gross. And so in general, I've stayed away from any content like that, like Christian TMZ and all of that. Like I've tried to only ever react to that stuff when I feel like there's like matters of like theology or ecclesiology. So like one would be like, and I love Brandon Lake, and we're cool. But when he did that whole like Bubba thing like a year ago, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't really like singing." This was the clip, and I think if he had a chance, he'd do it over again.
I think he said that.
Yeah. And he's like, we got to throw some simple songs in there for Bubba, And I'm just like, that dumb human who decided to walk into a known religious institution in the year 2026, with a cross on the wall and like lyrics on the screen and like the ability to like research stuff with AI, that dumb idiot, I try not to get caught up in like matters of like Christian gossip. That's just boring to me. So by nature of that, I haven't really tapped into much of Mike Winger, but being here in Australia, we've been driving a lot. We've been in a lot of the regions.
You had time.
And then his most recent one with this guy called Gary Johnson was an Australian guy. And I just watching Mike Winger, and I'm just like, gosh, I kind of feel like this guy doesn't, like he's not coming after anyone's, from what I can tell, he's not coming after anyone's money. He just wants there to be like righteousness and like goodness, and it seemed good to me, but I don't know. I don't. That's why I put out that post. I'm like, what do y'all think about it?
What was the response you got from people?
I think people really underestimate like how much Gen Z guys want the real thing. And so I just think Gen Z guys are just like, say it how it is. And they're just like, I got a lot of those young guys following me. They're like, anyone who's nervous about Mike has something to hide. And you're just like,
yeah, sure.
I get both sides because I have friends who, it's none of anyone's business what's going on in their personal life right now. It's just not, but then again, there's bad actors that kind of hide, and there's a bad sense of culture, but it seems like overwhelmingly got good people like him.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen, not that one, but I've seen the other guy that we're talking about. He's been to my church. I think Sean Bowles.
Yeah.
Him?
Oh, yeah. So Sean and I think they're linked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so Mike Winger has done reveals on both of those guys.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think when it comes to the online stuff, it's hard because I always find it's like kind of what you're saying. It's like people I find kind of lean hard one way where it's like honor completely to blind following.
Yes.
Like, you got to honor your leaders, got to honor them, don't question anything. And they're like above reproach. But then other people are like opposite of the bitterness in their heart that they're just trying to take any angle. And I'm like, the hard thing with online as well, it's like that discernment when you don't know the person. It's really hard to know because sometimes even just in nuance conversations with friends and family, it's like you get really angry at someone and you think they're doing you wrong or doing wrong.
Yeah.
But then you find out actually, there's actually stuff going on in their life. They didn't mean things certain ways, or that's not where their heart is.
Right.
And it's knowing where someone's heart is probably the hardest thing.
Totally.
Because it's like, that's where that discernment is when you actually know the person and you get to know them and stuff. You can be like kind of what you're saying is like, what's their actual intention?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do they actually hate the church? And it's like, that's a hard thing I find, especially with online more than anything. It's like, how do we know what you're allowing us to see?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like when you speak into certain topics, that's why I like what Sam, you were saying before, how you're like, hey guys, I'm figuring this out.
Yep.
Now this is how I feel. It's like, that is more that honesty and that truth that comes through. And it's like, sometimes those things I'm like, yeah, they're true. And all the things like you talk about, you showing the moral truth of it. But it's like, those things are hard sometimes to figure out what's right and what's wrong, I feel.
It's hard to play in that realm though, because I had this out on a pod with Nathan and Cam a couple months ago about Forrest, and before the awards happened, is he going to go, is he not? And we just started talking about like, the point I was making was like, I think Forrest Frank is so popular because he is himself online. What you see is what you get. And Nathan's point was like, well, no one online is what you see is what you get. Like that doesn't exist. Like social media is totally top of funnel marketing. It doesn't exist that is authentic. That's a fake look at authentic.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And so I think like we're playing in a realm where it's like, oh, we want the real thing. You know, every generation wants the real thing, but you're not going to find it on social media. That was his point. And I actually do agree.
Yep.
To an extent. I think you can try to be as authentic as possible, but what you're seeing online is totally just what they want you to see. Even if they want you to see authentic, even if they want you to see the real me, that's still just a picture of what they want. You know what I mean? Of what they want you to see. So I think like the premise sucks because you can't like you're failing either way. You know what I mean? That's why I think an in-person, if two people are having it out, get them in the same room like this. Like if we had beef right now before you came here, like I'm sure we wouldn't say half of the things that we would say online.
Totally. And your posture, the spirit in the room, a mediator. I mean, and to me, the reason why I want to advocate for that is because it's actually beautifully human. It's beautifully the right kind of anti-AI. Like some of people's objections to AI is like just cringe and like just like, yeah, dude, you would have hated locomotives. I'm sorry, fam. You know, like because when I used Adobe, I was such a true artist pushing around pixels with Adobe. You know, I'm like, yeah, bro, like calm down. I bet you painters hated, you know, Photoshop, you know, like real copy editors, guys who like tape things together and photo print them, you know, they're like layers. Yeah. Can you imagine? You know, but I think that, I think that's so true. Sean Bowles, my only interaction with him is, he ripped one of my pieces of content.
Oh, really?
It was my first viral piece of content, dude, or second. My first viral piece of content was something with my kid, which is cheating, you know? Like,
it doesn't count. It was their viral piece of content, bro.
Exactly. And it just farmed what my kid did. And then the second one was when I led a group of guys to partake in communion on Fortnite. And it was going mega viral. And
how did he clip that?
How did he clip it?
Yeah.
He just took it and reposted it and didn't say my name at all. Like didn't tag me, didn't anything. It was my only interaction. I'm like, oh, this guy's got a few 100,000 followers. And I knew nothing about him. And then I just like put out to my followers, I go, guys, his team's not answering me. Harass him until he does. It's the only time I've ever done that. And so I'm actually proud to say my community comment bombed Sean Bowles into submission.
So funny.
And then he like,
and that set the whole thing in spiral.
And that's what started it.
That's hilarious.
I haven't.
Now look at him.
You know, my thought on the Mike Wingers of the world.
Yes.
And I'd be interested to hear your guys' takes. I go, if you don't want Mike Wingers, then we need denominations.
Sure.
If we don't want the Mike Wingers of the world, then we need better denominational apostolic structures and accountability systems.
Agree.
That's
but
true.
Most of us right now like to do church without seatbelts and speed limits. And that's fine. And we like, you know, this whole like, you know, like we're an island unto ourselves church thing. I'm just wondering if like, again, I'm not saying like the way that I think about it is we don't need a pope, but we do need some bishops. Like we don't need to be Catholic. Screw that. You know, like I think Catholics are fine, but I hate that like everyone's just like automatically defaulting.
Yeah. It's not the answer.
And so that's what I think. I go if you never want Mike Winger to show up, then I think one of the things we can do to help eliminate that is create better and more robust accountability structures.
I mean, I've got no objection with that at all.
Yeah, like what body of the function is AI going to take?
That's a great question.
The head.
We'll just lay the hands.
AI is like, it's time. Do it. You know? Do it.
Execute order.
I want to execute.
66.
Execute order 666.
Clip that.
Yeah.
No, my question was around like in ministry. So like I've heard kind of two sides of this. Obviously, like we know I like AI. Okay, so we can park that for a second. But I've heard two arguments. One is like a lot of pastors are saying to their young people and you know larger churches are saying to their campus passes and things. Like, we don't use AI to sermon prep. We don't use AI to we go to the Bible, we go to the source, blah, blah, blah. So if I find out that I've literally heard this verbatim. If I find out you're using it, you're out. And then I've had other people who don't have any system or structure around how to use it. So they just open up ChatGPT free plan and they type in, what does it say in James about why God loves my church? And then give me a sermon. So there's these two ends at the moment where a lot of people are just ignorant, not because of any reason, but it's just advanced so quickly and it is really hard to keep up. So I saw a clip of you on a different podcast talking about how to set up ChatGPT for your sermon prepping, or how to set it up for actually reading things in context. Like for me, I use it in my reading every morning. I've set up a custom chat in Claude that has parameters. Everything has to have a direct connection to an area in Bible Hub. So if it says a statement, it has to back that up either with a commentary or with a lexicon or something like that in Bible Hub. The reason for that is that's how I used to do my either sermon prep or my study. And so there are healthy ways to set up AI in terms of how to study the word, and there are unhealthy ways. I'm just keen to hear what you do, how you do it, what you're seeing, and how we can actually give people practical tips. Do you know what I mean? On how to navigate, because no one's really talking about it. And I saw you talk about it recently, and I want to touch on it.
I mean, I love that guys are more offended that people use AI to write their sermons than they are that people copy and steal sermons from other pastors. I love that that's more I love that it's more noble to just gank someone else's sermon like from another person. And I love that that's more noble than like using AI.
Well, side note, I love Bryce Crawford and shout out, but I love him. But the clip of him and back at like a couple of months ago of him preaching one, and then Judah's famous one, I was like, come on, man.
Well, do you know what I think is a lesson is we need to normalize guys not feeling the pressure to have original thoughts at pulpit.
Tell me about that.
Meaning, like, if Bryce would have just said, and I bet you he'd do it all over again. He totally did great. But if he had, back to that moment, he goes, hey guys, I'm young, and, you know, I feel led to just explain the gospel in the way that it most made sense to me. And it made so much sense to me that it's actually become this, like, catechized, like, incarnate part of my soul. And there's a guy called Judah Smith, and this is what he said. And brilliant. Just like I think that the greater problem isn't, to me, how should pastors use AI for sermon prep? I think the better question is, what is our culture around sermons in general right now? There's still, to me, too much of a pressure to drop 52 bangers. Like, there's still too much in the church that I think guys feel like they grow their church through preaching. And then, you know, people that I look up to would say, well, that's true. And I just go, but is that the only way? And is it the best way?
Right.
And I just think that, like, there's something to be said about just having a bit more humility to just be like, I'm going to teach an expository, you know, lesson. I'm going to quote some theologians and church fathers. And we're all going to go get breakfast after this. And when I look back on some of the messages I've worked the hardest on, they were the worst. You know why? Because they were John. You know? And I think, like,
so true, man.
Even on this trip, and these guys can attest to it, and I don't mean this as a flex. I'm actually trying to, like, brag on the word of God. How many times will we have preached on this trip? Going on 10, 12 already?
Probably more, yeah.
Have I repeated myself once?
No, not one.
Let me tell you how I've not repeated myself. Expository teaching. People are like, oh my God, you have so many things to say. And I'm going, it's freaking crazy what happens when you freaking crank up a chapter from the Word of God and you just line by line say what it says. And it's like so funny because people are like, John, you're such a good preacher. And I'm like, the Bible just Bibles, bro. And I just think this pressure to have the original thought, the unique thought, to try to be the next Robert Madu, to try to have the next best illustration is just not. I don't think it's wrong when guys have it. You know, it's like clearly like Mike Todd.
If it's an inspiration or a revelation or whatever, but
clearly Mike Todd has a gift for illustration and presentation, and he should do that. But I think most guys don't have that gift. I don't know that I have that gift, and we should just do like homilies and catechisms and just have more of a liturgy that's not built around like, I got a banger for you today. You know, like even like if we think back to the last like few years of like preaching, we're like, you know, it's like, okay, Carl Lentz is preaching at Hillsong Conference 2016. I wonder what he's going to say. As if he's going to say something that God hasn't already said.
Yeah, so true.
But he yelled when he said it, so it was
And he
so
looked-
good.
And his shirt looks
So
sexy.
Dude, he was
and
so
he's
tight.
beautiful.
And I mean, it's
I
not,
listened.
and
I
that's
always
not to
listen.
say that like we can't have creativity. I just think that we've gone, and I don't even know that Chad or Rich or Chris Durso or any of those guys actually tried to create that culture. I just know that a lot of us have exported that culture, and a lot of pastors have brought it into their workflow. So I think a lot of why pastors feel like they need to steal sermons from other pastors or overuse AI is because they have this developed pressure to preach some banger.
It's just complex.
I also think that they've been taught that their church grows via their personality, so they don't have a teaching team. They feel threatened by other teachers. So I don't know, man. I think when you think about how do pastors not have moral failures, how do pastors do this for the long haul, how do we have rich and robust teaching 360, one of the things might be like, hey man, you need to preach less. And all the senior pastors that I love and respect went,
But a lot of them went,
hopefully.
bro, I think a lot of them do, man. I love that. It's super practical. Like we can actually, the most powerful thing we can do is open the word and pray, God, I pray your words would go from logos, words on a page, to rhema, words alive written on my heart, you know?
Amen.
And when you pray that sincerely, actually every time I open the word, and I'm in Jeremiah right now and it's like really hard to read and like too creative and wild for me.
Yeah.
God actually has something for me that day. So when you get up on a Sunday or you get up on whenever and you're presenting to a group of people, to 5 or 5,000, I think you can actually just trust that the word will go forth.
Yeah.
The word will land in people's hearts. And it's great if you've got something intricate and exciting and awesome to say and this great story that lines, great. I mean, great. That's fine. I don't have a problem with
and
that.
I think a key there is when I challenge myself to preach from a more expository framework, what I end up doing is I build stories, illustrations around what the text already says.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yep.
a lot
Instead of making it
of my time preaching as a topical preacher, I built the text around
the
my
topic.
thought.
Yeah.
I'd like the way that I would start, the way that, even for a decade of preaching, I'd be like, what's a cool idea? What am I gonna say? And that was even before social media was big. I can't imagine the temptation that people have to drop a banger so the clip goes off. It makes me sick to think that there are young preachers being modeled that they should start their sermon prep by which like line is going to really soar on IG Reels. That makes me ill, like legit. And I think that I don't think it's any one person's fault. I think it's just all of our jobs to be like, let's stop acting like AI is like the worst thing that's ever happened to sermon prep. And let's recognize that we've got some other things going on.
It's exposed.
That if we fix those, we might not even see that many guys even want to use AI.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was not told about church father. Do you know the church fathers for me growing up in like white, predominantly white, seeker-sensitive churches in America? Billy Graham and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Those are the only church.
Really?
Like,
That was it?
that was it. What? Who? Like I never heard. People didn't talk about St. Augustine. People didn't talk about. It was just like, yeah, bro, this dude Billy Graham. You see what he did? And then Martin Luther King Jr. Day might as well have been like a religious holiday because it was the only thing we celebrated every single year.
Yeah, wow.
Is honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend, the theologian, the doctorate in theology, and then also Billy Graham. And I think that's just a weakness of our evangelical culture, where even mainline Protestant denominations have just a higher reverence for the saints. And again, we could all just rip G.K. Chesterton and have a life's worth of sermons. And quite frankly, I think that's what a lot of us should do. I don't think we should just rip them raw.
Yeah, but
like we should utilize them.
Yeah. I agree. So how do you think, okay, so two-pronged question, with AI in the church, how do you think first church leaders, pastors, even people like us, like content creators and people in media, how should we be showing young people and even like my parents' age, like AI is here, right? It's totally here in a big way. How do we teach people to interact with AI in a healthy spiritual way? Because, what do you think?
I think we are going to have to resist the temptation to think that someone's going to write a book and make us know what to do. I think our posture and our consumer culture is like, okay, as soon as John Mark Comer drops the AI book, we'll have it all sorted. And then we'll just do what John Mark Comer says, or like, it's like, they're like, and we love Nathan, I'm going to wait till Nathan Finocchio drops a Substack about what to do about AI. That doesn't mean that guys like John Mark and Nathan and others shouldn't be talking about it, but I think we've got to realize we haven't even really started this journey yet.
Yeah, no.
And we are going to have to, it's how I imagine, and this is a prediction because it might not be as drastic as what I'm about to say, but I think it is. It's how I imagine that if pastors that were pastoring during the Industrial Revolution, if they could look back, I think they'd do some things differently. And I think they would just, when you're in a societal shift, you don't often know that you're in the midst of it. The Industrial Revolution happened so fast that, for instance, most churches in England, or most churches anywhere, couldn't even fit more than 200 people. London, it took London almost 2,000 years to grow to 1 million people. And then within the first 40 years of the Industrial Revolution, it grew to 3 million people. And so the Industrial Revolution changed everything. It got so bad that there were certain churches that would rent out like pews. So like, because there was all these factory workers, all these farmer boys in there, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, you got to get into the parish, or like whatever, and
Top of the morning too.
and we just weren't ready, And so I just think that right now we've got it, instead of, this is my encouragement to pastors and parents, you're not going to figure AI out. Let me say it again. You're not going to figure AI out. You're not going to figure it out. Not now. We're not going to read the tweet. We're not going to read the article, get the book, buy the t-shirt, go to the course, go to the AI conference. It's all for all the parents to teach them how to deal with AI, that artificial intelligence. You know what I mean? They got that new thing. We're going to have to like settle in as cultural expositors and examiners and be spirit-led. And just, it's going to be a day-by-day thing. We don't know. Things are sneaking through, like when Anthropic goes, overnight, Anthropic is partnered with the U.S. Department, the Department of War, and you're like, what? And then it's like, we found some things that were wrong there, and so no longer we're with Anthropic. Next day, the U.S. Department of War is now partnered with ChatGPT, And then just a week ago, this silent kind of subtle tweet, just put it out there. Anthropic is partnered with SpaceX to 10x our computing power. The end. And you're like, what has Elon got going? I thought SpaceX was rockets. What is space? So I just think we've got to go day by day. But I think what we can do is start having some like preliminary predictive conversations around things like AI, transhumanism. So we need to start talking more preemptively about what could happen when XYZ happens. But we've got to resist the urge to think that we're gonna figure it out.
Now, then, what's your obviously great answer, by the way? Where would you kind of say your heart leans towards? Where would you say the line is that's too far when it comes to AI? Like, what would you say right now, this point of time?
With what? With like creating or with what?
Well, kind of anything. Like, do you think it's like, can you use it for everything of creating? Like, how much can AI create? How much can AI do by itself? Like, how much human needs to be involved? What should we allow AI to do? Like, should we marry AI? Like, do you have a certain bit where you feel like
I don't think you should ever use AI for video. I don't think that should...
You should not use it for historical commentary on British colonies and societal transformation over 200 years time.
Never.
Can you please do some stuff on like all the weird Australian animal stuff?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Like the camels.
Hey?
Do you guys know about that?
Yeah.
There's more camels in Australia than anywhere else in the world.
I just
in the outback. And guess what? They pay you to go kill them too.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video right now. It's just like this ABC documentary. It's like ABC Sydney or something. And it cuts into this like a parks worker, and he's just like this very normal guy. And he's like, "Oi, I'm the camel killer." And then it just clips to this montage of him just, guys, I'm talking right there on YouTube. He's just mowing down.
Yeah.
Dude, we watched it yesterday. I'm talking like over, and he goes, I reckon in a good day, I kill about 450, it's like 450 camels.
I'm telling you, they pay you. I'm going there later in the year. They pay you to go and kill them. There's so many of them.
And then there's the rabbits and the foxes.
Yes.
And the fact that they brought over the rabbits to, make it more like England. And then they had no natural predators really. And then they brought foxes.
Yeah. You could do the cane toads.
How do you know all this?
Jake's told me. Jake's told me.
You guys have been a lot of driving.
Yeah, we've seen real
'Cause that's
Australia.
spot on. Yeah,
We've been seeing regional.
Yeah, well, you got here
Australia.
and went to Bundaberg.
Yeah, Bundaberg.
Come on,
You went to
dude.
Bundaberg.
Who comes to Australia for the first time? Whoever did this guy's schedule and goes to sorry,
Bro, because I'm
but
gangster,
Bundaberg.
bro. You keep Sydney, bro. You keep Adelaide. You keep Melbourne, bro. I'm here for the people, dog. I want real Australia, man.
Bundaberg's pretty real.
Bundaberg's the real deal.
And then even the emu war.
You lost me on that one.
Emu War? Tell
Okay,
me more.
So
Please.
after World War I, there was this it was a dust storm and a famine, and all the emus basically they were running away from the drought and famine, and they started just ravaging I think it was maybe Western Australia, like farmland. And so the farmers called on the Australian military, and the military comes out with I think they were Lee Enfield machine guns to
Just
go
mows
just
them down.
mow down the emus.
They're illegal to kill now.
But here's the
Because
thing.
of the war.
No, the emus won. The Australian military was defeated by the emus because they were
Wait, how did they beat it? Like
because
they
somehow
can't kill all of us. And they're just running.
there was there's one commentary that I was reading where it was like they shot 10,000 rounds and only killed like a few hundred of them because as soon as the emus are smart, they started zigzagging and sleek profiles and they
I'm
just
doing a
couldn't.
video. I'm doing a video.
That's what
Yes.
you dude. I need that.
army
my action emu army.
Dude, and the camel clip. I need that clip.
Okay, I'll do it,
I'm
I'll do it.
telling you, it's like, it is
That's
ghastly.
nuts.
I'm not talking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At this point, you're already like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm imagining 5 camels
keeps
getting
going.
dropped. This is on YouTube. 7, 9. And it's like they're such a dramatic animal to watch die because they're like basically like
they're-
a like
Yeah,
a land octopus if you think about it. They're like like they're just flopping, dude. Oh, and then there's like some that like because they're so big they don't die right away, so they're like,
sad.
and you're just like, oh.
Josh is getting sad. You sad?
No, that's sad. That part when they don't die.
I cannot believe
Do you
that.
hunt?
Not yet. I
Okay.
want now that I live in Tennessee. I really want to learn, and
Oh,
also
nice.
the world's probably going to end. So I really want to
You
be
need
able
to
to provide for my family.
You need to catch your own.
Next time I come, we'll go drop
tee it
some
up.
camels.
We'll tee it up.
I cannot believe an Australian pastor has not done a sermon series on this. When you import what God says to export from your life, you know what I mean?
that's
You know,
good.
it's just
That's
like
good.
you're
That was
just
good,
like
Brian.
it's just you're like many of you got rabbits in the camp. You know, you're just like and you've brought in the foxes to try to deal with your problem. Your man-made solutions to your man-made problems.
Oh, that'll
but
preach.
how about you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How's no Australian pastor done that? I'm gonna.
They probably have. They just don't have cameras to live stream. or
Yeah, back
show
in the
us.
day.
Yeah, the ones doing that probably aren't live streaming their services.
yeah, for legal reasons.
Well, I'm putting a call out to all the great Australian churches. Get on your animal analogies, okay? There's a lot to work with there.
yeah, I think so too.
What was the question?
Where were we?
It was about where do you think the line in using AI is right now for you?
Well,
Like where do you think?
No, I
Well,
think the question
Christian
was
context
more:
as well.
does Mike Winger use AI for his exposing videos? Wasn't that the question?
He does. It's all fake.
I think every 5 days there is a scapegoat for us to blame, for whatever issue we're actually still caught up in. People wanted to start blaming, smartphones as if like before smartphones, no one ever got divorced. It was like if you hear people like talk about like pre-iPhones, they're like imagining some like feudal peasants just sitting around being like, tell me about your emotions today, like how are you feeling? Like we're just here, it's like my dad didn't have a cell phone all he needed was a newspaper to ignore me. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have a cell phone, but he found something. He found a boat, like and so I think before you start demonizing AI, we should first ask the question, what do you use Google and YouTube for that you shouldn't?
That's good.
And even less like shouldn't as in right and wrong. It'd just be a question of like, what are ways that we've implemented technology that might not be the best thing for the human race? So like for instance, I wasn't taught how to tie a tie. By my dad or my first stepdad or my second stepdad. That's a long story, okay? And
Why
so
haven't we gone there yet?
we can't.
Warming up.
And so, but if that had happened before, I would eventually I'd have to go up to a person, a friend maybe my wife had a good dad, maybe my father-in-law. I'd have to go to a person and be like, can you teach me how to tie a tie? Just think of like how like actually kind of healing and cool that is. Now, all of a sudden,
YouTube. Yeah.
Bruce is the guy that taught me how to tie a tie when my dad didn't. But now we're like, how to tie a tie. So we've got to realize that technology has always offered opportunities to advance humanity, but it's always presented new ways to dehumanize our species. So there are elements to where we have to realize that what automobiles and locomotives, you know, and the Industrial Revolution, like it changed things a lot, and we have to wrestle with. It's just a big wrestle. Like, and so I would just say the best way to appropriately set your boundaries for AI is do an analysis on how you've been using technology. You know, now someone today, I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of college students here in Australia, and someone was like he said, "Do you think AI is going to make people dumber?" And I said, "Well, you assume that our current education system makes people smarter." You assume that the 200-year-old method of education that was primarily invented by the Industrial Revolution, by the way, standardized testing, you know, all that, like this, you assume that that's like this like peak, you know, experience of humanity. And so I just think to me, that's a more 360 way to think than just being like, how I use AI, bad, bad, you know, because what we'll do is we'll pick a current hot topic and we'll demonize it, you know? And again, we see it with politics. People, you know, in the States at least, would be like, oh my gosh, that pothole. I hate Trump. I just hate President Trump because, you know, and I'm like, and meanwhile, they'll do nothing to vote locally. They'll do nothing to be educated or involved. They'll do nothing to get on the parent-teacher board. They won't be involved at all, but we're all looking for a scapegoat. We're all looking for something to blame for the thing, you know, like, I bet you we could do it. I bet you there'd be data to back this up on what like carpool culture has done to the family unit. So now all of a sudden, are we just going to get rid of vans? Maybe we should. Maybe, you know, but like think about how much time is spent in the nuclear family, just in a like tubular vehicle, not talking as much to each other. People are on their screens, caught in traffic, eating fast food on the way. And is that compounded by travel sports or, you know, whatever? So then here you go. You got Elon Musk making self-driving cars and building tunnel systems with the Boring Company, who might actually do something to revitalize human connection in the midst of a super transient world. So I just think that I'm not trying to give a non-answer, by the way.
No,
you can press me on it. I'm not trying to be a fluff. I just think everyone comes to social media for like get these 3 bullet points. It's also a lot of times why they go to church for these 3 bullet points. And if they're given the 3 bullet points, then if they do those 3 bullet points, they're not responsible for thinking. And then if it doesn't work, it's that person's fault because they gave me the 3 bullet points. You need to do the work and have a deeper analysis on whatever technology is, whatever didn't exist in Eden. You know, and I would also reckon that in the Garden of Eden, technology would have been invented. Oh, should I say? Can I give the guys the thought experiment that Ethan asked me? Ethan asked me this. Ethan Beer, great
we've had
recording
him on.
artist. I love Ethan. Legend. Ethan asked me. We're in the car. He said, if man had never fallen and they continued to be fruitful and multiply, how would God have dealt with overpopulation? I have my answer. I want to hear your guys' answer. So if Adam and Eve, there had never been sin, but like humanity continued to grow at such a rate, and there's no death, so eventually, like you just run out of sheer space.
So no one dies?
Well, no one died.
In Eden,
no death.
they wouldn't have.
True.
You live forever.
Right, now I'm just getting the
Well, it's definitely got to start with the Earth is flat, and it's
So what my thought is, I think humans would have. Do you want to have a go?
No.
Yeah, no, you go, and then we'll come.
I think, and you guys can say this is total crap. I think that humans would have still made rockets, and we would have colonized other planets, and potentially the technology we would have made would have been so vastly superior to Apollo 11 or 12 that we would have just. There's a reason God made an infinite universe, and it's likely because he wants to populate it with image-bearing children of God. And that's just like...
So we're getting onto aliens now.
No, I'm not saying they're out there now. I'm just saying that like...
That just actually got me like kind of fired up a little bit. Like, but just the way it's saying that, like, the Christians, we're going to like the universe. We're everywhere.
Yeah, I think that God's plan, like, I think God's ultimate, like, heaven is not going to be this like Cloud City. It's not going to be like Bespin from like, Return, Empire Strikes Back. Sorry, I'm jet lagged. It's going to be like Eden, etc. And so I think we would, R.C. Sproul has this commentary on Luke chapter 2, where Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. It's that bit where he like gets left behind, and he's amazing the teachers with his answers and his questions. And a lot of commentators would say that like that's the example of the Spirit of God like fully on Jesus, as a young perfect human.
Mm-hmm.
R.C. Sproul said that that's probably also true. He said, but it's also an example of what the human mind is capable of when they are perfectly connected to Father God and know no sin.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he's saying that would have been what Jesus was at 12, wowing the Sanhedrin, would have been the normative state for 12-year-olds that hadn't, sinned.
Yeah, wow.
I thought that was a pretty cool thought experiment. Might be heresy, but it sounds good to me. R.C. Sproul is normally pretty on it,
But you never know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I was just trying to run like how many people would actually be here. And I'm like, maybe it would still fit.
Yeah.
Like we might be all right still.
No, actually, I don't think so. Bro, no way.
I actually think the numbers get too high. The serpent's going to convince someone.
Bro, there's some horny people out there, dude.
You got 1 billion people on the earth. The serpent's going to convince someone.
Yeah.
Like that's
for
what I'm
sure.
saying. Eventually,
For sure.
maybe Adam and Eve held on, but I'm like,
No, you're right. And ultimately, what's most likely in a reality situation is we would have fallen eventually. I think it's an interesting thought experiment to just know that in the hearts of man is that we've been given raw materials to steward, and that God created beings that create, and so that even in heaven one day and in Eden, we will still create. We will build beautiful and amazing things, and there will be versions of. I think there'll be versions of innovation. It'll certainly be different because we won't necessarily have problems to solve. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't fully worked it out, but I think it's interesting.
I think that's where we should sit.
Yeah.
Right there. Because I know you got to go soon.
Oh, do I?
Yeah. Yeah. I looked over and I saw some eyes.
Oh,
it's like,
Jake.
Yeah. Bro, I usually do this. Would you mind just praying for the other person on the other side of the camera today?
Yes,
whatever
please.
comes to mind, ask Holy Spirit. But, sometimes people need encouragement. They need, would you wrap us up in prayer?
Pray. Jesus, I thank you for everyone that's listening and watching. And I just ask that you'd lead us to just remain human in this age of the machine. God, there's just, just for really all of human history, there's been this oppressive force, this balancing act between progress and attrition to the human soul. And I just ask that you would help us just have an attentive ear to your Spirit, and to just have wisdom for people to know what elements of modern life they're supposed to embrace and redeem, and which elements that we're supposed to wholesale rebuke and walk away from. So help us, Holy Spirit. We need your help. None of us have the answer.
Yeah.
Pray for everyone that's writing a book on AI right now. Good luck to them, but help them, Holy Spirit. Just be led. And we wait in advance for John Mark Comer's book on AI.
Yes.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you.
His will be called AI, Adam's Intelligence.
No, it'll be Sabbath spelt with AI. Sabbath.
Sabbath. Yeah. Sabbath.
No, we appreciate you, bro. Thanks for
Thanks for having me, guys.
Cool. Hey, thanks for joining us. Just remember, if you click that little subscribe button, it will help so much get these episodes out to people who need to hear it. And we know we receive messages all the time of like, thank you so much, exactly what I needed, exactly what I needed to hear. This is amazing. And so that's what that does. Would you also connect with us on Instagram, connect with us on our website, our emails on there. We would love to connect with you. What I'd also love for you to do is to jump into the comments on the reel and just let us know, who would you love to see on the podcast? Who's the ideal person to sit down for a chat on Kingdom Creatives? And we'll do our best to get them. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.